History is rarely made by simple people. And Martin Luther? Well, he was absolutely anything but simple. In this explainer, we're diving into Thomas Kaufmann's 2016 biography, A Short Life of Martin Luther, to really unpack the wild contradictions of the man who literally sparked the Protestant Reformation. We're going to break down exactly how a single, deeply flawed individual completely flipped the religious and political landscape of Europe upside down.
So you gotta wonder, how does a quiet, solitary monk sitting around interpreting the Bible transform into a massive viral sensation? I mean, we usually think of media stars as a totally modern thing, right? Television, social media, all that. But Kaufmann makes this fascinating case that it actually happened 500 years ago. Let's figure out how he pulled it off. All right, moving into our first major theme, the man of extremes, a figure of contradiction.
Now, we're all familiar with the Protestant Reformation, but what Kaufmann really hammers home here is how this entire seismic shift traces back to just one guy, this deeply flawed Augustinian friar and those famous 95 Theses. Luther is literally ground zero here. Without him, the world we're sitting in today, it would look completely different.
And during his own lifetime, there was absolutely no middle ground with this guy. To the papal establishment, he was this dangerous, society-wrecking heretic. But his followers? They literally honored him as a kind of second Christ. It was completely polarized. You were either 100% with him or 100% against him. No in between.
Which brings us to the next big piece of the puzzle, monks to media star and the printing press revolution.
Get this, Luther became the most read theologian of the 16th century. Just take a second to process that. We're talking about a guy with totally humble origins in a quiet monastery, right? Yet he reached an unprecedented number of people. He wasn't just writing for academic bubbles or high-ranking clergy, he was speaking directly to the masses.
Sure, it started with those 95 Theses. But let's be real, ideas alone don't start a revolution. Luther's absolute, undeniable genius was how he leveraged the cutting-edge tech of his day, the printing press. Instead of keeping his arguments locked up behind closed university doors, he totally bypassed the church's traditional gatekeepers. He took his theology straight to the people. He saw the power of mass communication way before anyone else even grasped it, essentially making himself history's very first media star.
Let's pivot a bit to his personality. Flaws, greatness, and context. The earthy theologian.
Kaufmann points out this incredibly fascinating dynamic. Luther's profound, almost gritty earthiness was a direct match for his soaring theological greatness. He was stubborn. He used coarse language. He leaned hard into controversy. But, and here's the kicker, that grounded, everyday vibe is exactly why his high-level theology landed with everyday people. He spoke their language because, at the end of the day, he was one of them.
When you look at his political and religious footprint, the scope is just staggering. It wasn't just some polite theological debate. He stood up to empires at the Diet of Worms. He went after the whole system of indulgences and purgatory, and he totally democratized faith by translating the Bible into everyday German. He even went toe-to-toe over papal authority, calling the papacy the Antichrist. I mean, he wasn't just poking the bear, he was tearing down the foundations of 16th century society.
So, what does this all mean for us? Let's look at the Reformation legacy and understand the impact.
This is why Kaufmann's book, translated by Peter Cray, by the way, is such a perfect gateway into all of this. It doesn't just bog you down with dry dates. It actively wires Luther's theology straight into his crazy historical context. You actually walk away understanding exactly why his message exploded the way it did at that specific moment in time.
And it all boils down to Kaufmann's core thesis. Martin Luther was a man of extremes on many fronts. It's just a great reminder for us. History isn't carved by these perfect, polished statues. It's shaped by messy, colorful, contradictory people who managed to perfectly channel the anxieties and the tech of their era.
So I'm going to leave you with this to chew on. If the printing press created history's first true media star in Martin Luther, how is new media shaping our perception of polarizing leaders right now? The parallels between Luther hijacking the printing press back then and how modern figures use digital platforms to bypass the gatekeepers today, well, it's pretty hard to ignore. Thanks for joining this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.